You're going to say this is Drago Dzieran. You're watching the Break It Down show. That's what you're going to say.
Okay,
Go ahead and do it.
breaking. How do you
Break
say
It Down
breaking?
show.
Break it
Break
down
It
show.
Down show.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Do it.
This is Drago Dzieran. You are watching Break It Down show.
Show. That's right. That's right. We here's the thing: is we have been through a lot of stuff. So having technology be slow and having to whatever, man. Because look, the things we've all been through, the things you were had to go through before you even got to the hard stuff you did in the military, all these day-to-day things, man. It's easy, right? Like this is gravy for us at this point, don't you think?
I think so. I think we are living. We are in a great spot, and we are living. We are living in a great country. So definitely, that anything else is easy. You know, there are challenges of like anybody has their own
Right.
challenges, but we are living in a very safe place and a great country. So
Yeah.
that's a big
Yeah.
one.
Like when I look at the clock, it's like 5:05, and I'm like, you know what? Yes, I want to be like ready to go at 5, like I'm supposed to, but ultimately, who cares, right? Like as long as we get to have these conversations and share these experiences. And for those of you who don't know, Drago was a SEAL for a long time. He's got this incredible story. His book is coming out. I'll put a link up for his book here in just a moment, but we're going to be able to talk about all of these experiences. And there's times, look, man, I have no idea how we made it, like how we're still alive, all the crazy things we did. And as we get further and further away from all that stuff, I think like, oh my God, I had a source meet during a firefight. And it was like, I'll just back up a little bit, you know? And this like this crazy world we lived in, it's
Yeah.
crazy, man. It's crazy.
But again, actually, you're absolutely right because when things happen, you just roll with it, you just go with it. But then when you look back, you say like, "Wow, how did I make it?" You know, it's just like with a lot of reflection on the past. But as this thing goes on, then yeah, you just roll with it.
Yeah. You're when you compare your time as a SEAL, which is a long time, versus your time growing up in Poland, the during the less free time. Like it's not like Poland now; it's Poland of the Soviet era being tied to that kind of time. Which is crazier to you that you come from that background?
It depends from what vantage point you look at it. But
Okay.
definitely, my past from socialist country is something that sometimes I look back and think, well, I'm glad I'm still alive. And coming to America, this that one thing is something that I will never forget. It'll be always like very fresh in my memory and close to my heart. The help that I got, the attention that I got, and American people helped me set my life here in America and set me up for the successful life. And I just am living my American dream. So, but yeah, that time from Poland, that was really crazy because you never knew what's going to happen next. The police could show up on your doorstep, but you might never come back home. Your family might never see you again. You might not even know what will happen. I mean, you didn't know from day to day, especially the time of the martial law and after it, if you survive another day. So that was kind of that was crazy. Now, I don't see anything crazy in America uh, to that point. Just I would like to make one thing, make one statement here. People think that all the countries behind Iron Curtain during Soviet era were communist countries. Well, none of those countries was ever communist country, not even Soviet Union. They were all socialist states run by communists. Communists like my father, who was a hardcore communist. And that's something that people need to understand. And I also see very often online people write articles about me and say that's Navy SEAL who came up from Russian Gulag. Well, I never sit in Russian prison. There was Polish prison, and there were prisons for political prisoners. There were political prisons, and that's different. We in Poland we called it sometimes ourselves lagers or prisoners sitting in gulag. We call these prisoners gulags, but it was just our slang. Technically, they were just communist prison for inconvenient to socialism people. But technically, they were not gulags. So I just want to make it clear that people understand when they write another article about me. I did not sit in a Russian gulag. I sit in a communist in prison in Poland for political prisoners run by communists and socialists. So just take it out of the way.
Right. And when we talk about the different kinds of just like there's different kinds of democracy, right? Like when we bring democracy from America to Iraq, what they consider freedom, what they consider democracy, heck, we can't even decide what democracy is here, right? And so one version of socialism, whatever kind of other words you want to add to it, is
Yes, well,
yeah,
first, we are a republic. We are not democracy. That's different. But
right,
but yeah, we talk about democracy, the democratic process, and
yeah,
I think we are still the most free country in the world. I know people have complained about this, about that. I do it myself. Sometimes get surprised by the amount of censorship or depravity of some political parties. But yeah, that's it's just the way it is. But we are still the most free country, and we need to protect America because again, entire world is looking at us, and most of the world is admiring us and our republic, the democracy that we have, and the freedoms that we have.
yeah. It's amazing when you have someone like a conversation like you and I both know Johnny Walker, and we talked to him about he didn't even want to leave Iraq, right? Like he loved Iraq, he loved being Iraqi, but now, boy, he is the greatest American I know. He loves America. He loves the freedoms that he has. And if you're born with this stuff, somehow you don't appreciate what it is to have the things that we have. And we just look around and we're just mad at ourselves that we don't have enough freedom or that whatever. But just the fact that we can have the conversation, the fact that we can have a multi-term congressional member who displays anti-Semitism is a refugee, is a Muslim woman who's black. And that is like she's been elected more than once. Forget the politics. That is an amazing thing that that person can exist in the same house as Dan Crenshaw. Like these two things can sit side by side and they can both legislate together. That is incredible. Whether or not you agree with either of their politics, there they are sitting there, both equal legislators.
You know, this is only in America that you can hate America. You can be disloyal to America and still sit in Congress like that woman that you just said. What my concern is, though, that what needs to be taken care of as soon as possible is
Mhm.
remove the dual leadership, dual citizenship from Congress and from our and remove these people who are loyal a little bit to America and a little bit to other country. That should
Mhm.
never happen. And I believe that if you want to govern as Americans, our country, you should be pro-America. You should be America. You shouldn't be half this and half American. That does not work. I don't trust people like this, and we should not. If you are committed to our country, to America, you just American citizen. You
Mhm.
don't go. You don't cling to some the remnants of your other citizenship just in case maybe become useful or something. So, but
Yeah.
again, like you say, this is great because only in America we can disagree, but we are still free, right? We may
Yeah.
have a different views, but we can still be friends. We can try to we have different visions for America, but we can still live together and and like each other, or even if we don't like each other, right? We still have that freedom to disagree, to have different views on America's future, and we can work together to make it to move America forward. So that's very different. There is no such thing in any other place in the world that, like I say, like that woman, she hates
Yeah.
America. I mean, we know it. She hates America the way it is, and she still it's free. She still can do whatever she likes to do, and that's doesn't happen anywhere else. Only in America you can be that free.
It's one of the things about freedom, right? It's the ability
Right.
to tolerate someone else's freedom. That's not easy. It's not easy to allow someone to be completely
You
opposite,
know,
the antithesis of you, you know?
sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is not easy. It was not easy to me when I came from the totalitarian country, totalitarian system, and I say, how dare this person disagree with American government, or how this person to have a different views. And then I grew. Then when I learned about America, I changed myself. I was changed too. So for me now, I understand why and how great it is that we do have people with different views, that we can choose the route, the road for best for our country, best for ourselves, without looking over our shoulder that China or some other country come in and start telling us what to do or influencing us.
I wanted to ask you, I've worked with a lot of SEALs, I've worked with a lot of special operations folks, and there is, like, folks talk about alphas, but when you get onto a team or you go when you work with an ODA or look, any of these special, like force recon, right? All these guys, Rangers, these are alphas, and there's alphas among alphas, and everybody sorts out. But even within that group, you can be on a team and not be in charge, but you still are a leader within that team, right? It's kind of hard to explain, and we're all relying on each other. So let's say that Pete shows up, and you're on SEAL Team 4, right? And I show up and I'm like, hey, I know how to help. I'm an intel guy. I'm going to go out with you guys and collect. Here's what's going to happen. And soon enough, you guys are like, hey, Pete's good. He's legit, right? And so we're all doing our part. I'm trying to take all the intel stuff away from you guys. I'm going to try to write all the reports so you guys don't have to do that, right? And we figure these things out. But there's a sorting thing that we all have to do. And I've always found it fascinating because once you learn to speak the language, once you learn to work at a certain level, it all goes pretty smoothly. Sometimes there's egos and they clash and it doesn't work. But even that can get sorted out by someone who's higher up. But how do you explain this to people that have never had to go through that seasoning that you have to go through to get to a certain level of professionalism, to know when to force yourself in and to know when to not? Can you explain that at all? I mean, you lived your whole life on the teams.
From my experience in SEAL teams, almost everybody's alpha.
Yeah, right.
But we learn how to work together. There's certain rigid structures and regulations that even if you don't like somebody, and there are people that don't like each other, you still work together because the cause is common, and the common cause. And if you don't work together, you know that it might cost you a life or your teammate a life.
Mm.
So you, whether you like it or not, you do work together as a team. But then when you go on your own, sometimes I see guys just going somewhere in their own places and doing their own stuff. But like, I think the bond that is created in the team, especially in combat, is something that it lasts forever. This is different. There are many SEALs that never seen combat. They are still SEALs. They're still my brothers. They
Of
still
course. Yeah.
have the respect, because go to combat. The way I was just lucky that I was able to get in that fray. But there's a lot of people as good as I am, even better, and they never had the chance to get to it. So we understand that there's an entire generation of SEALs that went without seeing any combat, and that's great. This is something that you want, right? You don't want a wars. We are just
Right.
used, and we deploy really when things go bad. And yeah, we fight the wars, but no warrior really is longing for the war. Well, maybe sometimes, but we all know that war is not good.
Right.
War is just heartache and broken lives on both sides,
Yeah.
and you know, warriors don't make wars. Politicians do. We just fight them. Sometimes they are just. Most often, not most often. Sometimes they are just. Sometimes they are not. America does not fight unjust wars. When we go in, there is a reason to uh, for us to go in, and you have to have the trust in the government and people who are making these decisions that the war you are fighting is the right war.
Mm.
So for me, it is important to have this trust. And how do we have this trust? I think, well, the elections. So if elect, we elect our officials, our nation elects them to lead our country, and we just make sure that they can do it without other powers infringing on our government, on our elected officials, and on our citizens. So we are the enforcers. The way I see
Yeah.
myself.
Could
I
you?
don't.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, people ask me quite often if I would ever run for office because I have a lot of. I've seen the socialism up close, directly. I've seen communism. I've seen how dangerous these ideologies are, and people say, "Well, maybe you can help sway people away from it." But I think there is enough in schools, enough publications that people want to know, they can reach it. I see myself more as a protector of the process. So
Mm.
we can elect our officials, we can and our politicians without undue influence from other countries. I am the one from thousands of warriors standing on the line and making sure that our process is not infringed upon other countries. There are other ways to circumvent it. If you purchase a politician or political party, then, and this is the only way America can be conquered. There is no power in the world that can challenge us militarily. But if
Right.
they get inside our process and purchase politicians and parties, we can lose our country. We can lose the freedoms very quickly.
Yeah. If it was such a thing where, like, you were to start your SEAL career now, and you just spent your entire career training either yourself and other SEALs, and then training other nations' SEALs and special operators, would that be satisfying to you, or do you consider yourself fortunate that you got to do so much time actually in combat?
My intention, the reason I joined the Navy was because America was at war. And I believe that was my moral obligation to help, to be part of that effort, and to join military. Because there's other way to serve country. You don't have to join military to serve America. But for me, with my limited resources, I thought I put my life online for America, and that way I can at least kind of help repay the debt of freedom that was given to me by America and American people. So for me, if there was no war, I would be still satisfied. I would be,
Mhm.
it's. But most likely, if there was no war, I wouldn't be in military. Maybe eventually, but again, the reason I went into the Navy is because there was a war and America was fighting a war. So I feel like I had to do that because that was my moral obligation.
When you decide to go to Buds, do you have any clue that you can make it, or you're just like, we'll just keep going after it and keep doing it? I mean, some guys say like I was prepared to die, and that's why I made it through, right? Other guys are like I was fit and I was ready, and it wasn't that hard. I mean, look, it's always hard, but they were just physically ready. But
That's always helped.
yeah,
Uh,
did you know that you could get through when you started it?
well, I didn't think along this line. I just went there to become SEAL. So for me, it was like I didn't go there to try and see. I didn't even know much about the training. When I was going there, me and a friend of mine, Jason Cabell, uh, we thought that they're gonna lock us up for 6 months. We don't go anywhere. It would be like a prison time where we just go train, and it's not really what it is. So I didn't have these thoughts like, could I make it or is it possible to make it? I just went there to become SEAL, and I did. Uh, yeah, so
Yeah.
I think the answer, yeah, there was no. I know there are people who just they go there and say like, well, see if I can make it. I'll try. I give my best, and it's just I don't know. My motivation is a bit different maybe because
Yeah.
I didn't go there just to try to be somebody. For me, it didn't really matter if I would be a SEAL or serve in any other capacity. Actually, I was told initially that I may not be a SEAL because I'm too old. I was like 4 years past the age limit almost. So they almost 5 years. So they but I say, yeah, I will go there. I will become if they let me give me a chance, I will become a SEAL. But if not, I would still be happy serving America in any other capacity that America needed me. Because
Yeah.
please remember, again, like I say earlier, everything that I have, everything that I own, I owe to America and American people. So how do you repay freedom? You can't. You always think like, what else can I do? What else can I do? I'm retired now, so I'm out of the military, but I'm always thinking, what else can I do? What can I do to help America and American people? So that's, I think I will always think until I die like this.
Yeah.
Because again, you cannot repay freedom. How can you?
How tied in are you to the Polish world? Like, do you hang out with Polish groups in America? Do you ever go back to the old country?
No, I don't have. For 20 years, I didn't even speak Polish because I didn't even know anybody. In our units, within Navy SEALs, we don't have foreigners. So serving with us, I think, just maybe one speaking with kind of broken English. But yeah, so yeah, I didn't have any contact with Polish communities here, and I still don't have any contacts with Polish communities here in America, although when I traveled to Poland and Ukraine last year, in 2022, I was invited to a reunion of uh, former political prisoners of communist regime, and it's kind of interesting because I went to this reunion. We had a chance to tour the prison actually where we were being held by communists for our views, for our not compliance with disliking of socialism and opposing socialism and communism. So it was very surreal for me when I went inside this prison with my fellow former prisoners and stood in the same prison cell when I spent time and was worrying if we come out alive from this prison because you never knew what they're gonna do, what communists or communist regime would do. If you look into the history when they went into Poland, and not only into Poland, when the socialist state was established by communists and communist regimes around Eastern Europe, there were political murders all the time. There are people disappearing from the streets, especially, if you were a criminal in socialist state, in socialist Poland, you were much better off than being political prisoner, because at least you had some rights. You are just treated as a criminal. For us, on the other hand, they were telling everybody that we are criminals, but we knew that if they feel we pose any danger to socialist state and communist regime and people like my father, they will kill us. It happened. It happened in 1940s, 50s, in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I mean, the socialist state, socialist economy is so inefficient that people eventually got so hungry that they have enough and they revolt. And it happened in Poland, it happened in Romania, Czechoslovakia. You remember 1968 when the Warsaw Pact countries, including Polish communists, invaded Czechoslovakia. So in Poland, 1956, 1968, 1962, 1968, 1970, 1976, 1980s, there were always upheavals. People were hungry and tired of communism, communist regime and socialist state, and they went on the street to be just shot and killed by communist regime. So those upheavals are very common to socialist states, and they happen every so often, just like in Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, East Germany. Not so much in Soviet Union because it was so pacified by terror that there were some, but they were very well censored and very well hidden from us. But in other East European countries, yeah, you can look in the history, you can see those upheavals, you can read about it.
Some of this stuff doesn't go away either. We have this war in Ukraine with Russia, and this past, it seems like Ukraine is so far removed from Russia, but you and I both know, like in our lifetimes, these were Soviet countries, right? It's all one big country. And if you like you were talking on Jocko's podcast about your uncle and making bricks, and if you get good at making bricks and you start to do well and go up, 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 that's not that, they don't like that. And so if you're a businessman and you start to do well in Ukraine or Poland or whatever it is, they think you're cheating. They think you're doing something to steal when really you're just a good businessman,
No,
and
yeah, you kind of right about it, but it's not so much they think that you are stealing.
Yeah.
They are afraid that when you become successful and independent from them, you can create a lot of problem to search for socialist state. So if my uncle, if he was a party member, the Communist Party member, or in line with the socialist state, he would be prosperous. I mean, that would protect him. That besides, he was not. My entire family was Christians, so they were afraid of him. When he was just existing there in Poland, it was okay. But when he became successful and actually start making a business that his business was threatening other businesses owned by communists and communist aligned cronies, then they sent those they call them anti-fascists and anti-Nazis. They sent these groups to destroy my uncle's business. It was nothing unusual. It was quite common. And it was quite common until the end and collapse of socialist states in Eastern Europe. There were always a group of young people, students mostly, young factory workers, who were coerced indoctrinated into socialist state and believing that, yes, the businessmen or some wealthy people, they are Nazis and fascists, and they need to go and fight them. So for Communist Party in Poland, it was very easy to unleash these groups during different times and during different times to attack people, to intimidate people. And at the same time, the propaganda, the fake news media in Poland were creating an atmosphere of hate, discontent, and divisions, trying to make that dissent as something really crazy, as conspiracy theorists. But in real life, there was just the other way. There was very few communists and socialists like my father, but most of the Polish nation, hate the socialist state and communists who create such a hardship in the country, such a lack of freedom. You could listen to the wrong radio station, you could go to prison. You could have a typewriter that you didn't register with government, you could go to prison. You could go and create, let's say, a group of people. Say, this is not even party, just group of people that can gather together and, let's say, talk politics. You can talk about anything else, but you still have to register yourself. You wanted to talk politics? I was lucky you didn't get registered. If you attended such gatherings, you could go to prison. Or if you are even more a prominent citizen of Poland at the time, you could disappear. So, yeah, that's socialism. That's how socialism works. People need to understand whether it is Joseph Stalin socialism, whether it is Adolf Hitler socialism, National Socialism, or even Mussolini fascism that is the offshoot of Marxism. They all have many things in common, like censorship, intimidation, violence, and political and killing political opponents too, or imprisoning them. So I was one of those. I experienced that imprisonment from socialist state, and this is very common to any of these states. Whether you look into Russia, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Romania. Czechoslovakia doesn't exist anymore; it's Czechoslovakia. But at that time, it was Czechoslovakia, Romania. You will see these intimidation tactics, these divisions, and these attacks on the faith, on family values, and on patriotism. In my family is the best example. My father, communist, he did not allow us to go to church. He think there's a superstition. Once it is not good for the communist to be seen around the church and having a faith in something that is immutable. So they subscribe, just like my father, another example, they subscribe into so-called relative morality. It is morality not based on faith or something that is immutable. It is based on political ideology. And we know that politicians change, they tweak ideology, and this is very dangerous. We need to be aware here in America of this process. Seems like people are sort of, I don't say naive, but sort of do not understand how socialism works. This is good because it means that they never experience this perverted system. But also creates the problem because they can be quietly and silently, that system, that socialism can come about and people may not be warned soon enough, fast enough that socialism is coming. It's not today, but we need to be vigilant. We need to understand how socialism works so we don't get sucked into that dangerous ideology.
Yeah. Well, it's really an important thing for you. Like it's a thing that you tend to get back to on your conversation. Like you're less interested in talking about a memoir and really more really like this is your warning to everybody. And why do you think that is? Like why now is this when you write this book, why is it so important to do this? Like you have your pledge to America. That's the title of the book, but it almost sounds like a warning to America because this is where you go back to.
People see it this way, but this is not my intention. Actually, when I wrote this book, my intention was to use so people can read this book and use as a prism, as a lens, to see America better, to see America the good side, to see how great country we are and how unique America is. So that was my goal. But yes, I hear these comments that it sounds like a almost warning to what is happening in our country. I hope not. I want to believe that this is just the process. For us to disagree, even strongly disagree, in America, it's normal. We want our way of life. We want to see our country going certain directions, and every American is different. Every view is a little bit different. We need to understand that. There's nothing wrong with us disagreeing with each other. The problem comes when we start attacking our political opponents or people with different views, physically incarcerating them or attacking them through the law. When we start weaponizing our, when country starts weaponizing that own entities, state entities, like law enforcement, like intelligence agencies, the government, the justice, this is very dangerous time. And this is where we need to be alert to it, because those are the first signs of totalitarian system. And if we would ever allow this to take roots, you can rid of this, you can rid of those people, and you cannot rid of the system unless, I think, by force. So The first thing you will see in totalitarian system is weaponizing the state, weaponizing its entities. So basically, you cannot challenge them. If you try to, you end up in prison or being killed, like in Poland or other East European countries. I want to make a point here that Poland is no longer socialist state. It's fully free country, fully independent, making its own decisions, and people live free and happy there. It's very different. They argue just like we argue. They have those political fights just like we do here, but they are free to have them. They don't worry about they don't look over their shoulder to go to prison because they challenge some politician. So that changed. And matter of fact, even Russia is no longer socialist state. People very often refer to Russia as a communist party, but no, President Putin kicked socialism to the curb. This is why they are so dangerous now. This is why they can threaten us in Africa, in our regions, because they're becoming more powerful. They are no longer a socialist state. They have oligarchs there. So do we? We have to. And this is something that we need to be aware that President Putin is very smart. He knows what he's doing. And he also gave a lot of freedom to Russians that they before didn't have it. So this is why he has so much support within the Russian community. And, people telling you that, yeah, he doesn't have any support, he's an idiot, he's a stupid in this. They just either don't know what they are talking about, or they're just disseminating propaganda. But this is not the fact. The fact is that President Putin does have support of the society of the Russians, and it's dangerous. So if you treat somebody like an idiot, eventually, people think, well, this guy doesn't understand what he's doing. President Putin is idiot. You will think that you can make easy missteps in politics and actually endanger our country. You need to treat this man as a very dangerous man, and who knows what he wants. That's we cannot just ignore those changes in Russia, because Russia is becoming more powerful. You heard about this Ukrainian offensive. Well, much out of it. And you can hear our generals saying, well, these Russians are so stupid. They send these soldiers and told them that they go on exercise trip. I mean, you have to be an imbecile to believe that, and even more imbecile to repeat that stupidity. Russians knew where they were. They went and what they went for. And this is why making those claims, it just makes our situation more dangerous and does not help Ukraine either. The Ukraine needs our help. They, please remember, they just freed themselves from socialist yoke. They just got for the first time in a long time their own country. Now it's being taken away. And we're just sending money and pretty much watching, sending the money, tons of money, and we don't know where the money goes. So it's like, I don't know, I would call it money laundering. But so they send tons of money there. But this is not the help that they need. They need weapons. They need training. And just claiming that, well, we put sanctions on Russia. We kind of freeze bank accounts of few wealthy Russians and we stole their boats. Fleecing few wealthy Russians and stealing their boats are not the sanctions. This is not the sanctions that Ukraine need us to impose on Russia. They need more. And we are not helping them. And having our president coming and say, well, we're going to still pay Russia for the nuclear fuel, for uranium, because our economy and many things depend on it. So are we financing that war? Are we sending money to Russia and to Ukraine? What's going on here? It's a mess. And why do we even sell the uranium to Russia in the first place? So now we are buying it back piece by piece. Think about it. And also, I don't believe that looking at these documents just released about banking documents from President Biden and his son, taking millions in from Russian oligarchs, from Ukraine, from Romania, wherever they can. I just don't believe that this man, that our president, will impose any meaningful sanctions on people who are feeding his family.
Yeah.
What do you
Well,
say?
yeah, I mean, I think that's a legitimate concern. I don't know
It
which
is
way to go
concern.
in that, because there's so much bad information going back and forth. And even
We
if it
need
was
to
the truth,
understand.
you
We
know,
need to understand that Russia is a dangerous state. There's nothing. But if you start colluding with their oligarchs, what do you
yeah,
call that? And we need to understand that they are dangerous, and we need to understand how to protect ourselves, but also protect the other countries. They help protect us from that, and
mm,
seems like it is a miss. But you know what? This is the same administration. These are the same names, same people who gave us Benghazi. So you know how that went. So now, do you
yeah,
expect any better from you, them managing Ukraine? I don't.
I, yeah, I mean,
I've
you
been
know
there.
what? That's the nail on the head.
Yeah,
That's,
I've been there. I've been there. I
yeah,
talked to Ukrainians. I talked to Ukrainian soldiers, and there's two themes that were constantly repeating itself. One was that, well, we know if President Biden will be elected, we will have a war, and we have the war now. They knew about it. They knew that if
mhm,
President Biden gets elected, the Ukrainians will have a war. They will be invaded. And another thing, or the most common things that I hear when I talk to these people, is they fear Putin as much as they fear President Biden. They don't trust anyone. So that makes you think, like, I think they
yeah.
see a lot of the stuff that we think they don't.
I think you make a great point about the people who have been in charge, and they have Benghazi on their hands, the Arab Spring on their hands, the failed Iraq stuff on their hands, Afghanistan, on and on and on, right? Their policies have not borne fruit foreign wise, and they've often been out of step. And so I do
Disasters.
wonder, yeah, I do
You
wonder,
know,
how they deal with Ukraine, and do I want them, and do they deserve trust? Absolutely not, because they've not gotten it right, right?
not this administration, not these people. Those are, again, the same people who fled
Yeah,
Afghanistan in such a
right.
hurry, leaving thousands of our
Yeah,
citizens,
yeah,
ally citizens, in Taliban hands. But at least we know what President Biden meant when he said "build back better." It was build back better Taliban, because now Taliban is armed better than some of the European countries combined.
yeah.
That's
Well,
what we
let's get
need.
out of that business. Let's
Yeah.
get away from all of that stuff, and let's. I want to ask you this, because one of the things that's hard for all of us guys that have done a lot of this stuff, and is when you work every day and you patrol every day and you go out and you do hard things. It is really hard to leave that behind. It's easy to stay connected to that world. It's easy to land a ghillie suit on a ship, in some gulf somewhere, and do security sniper details indefinitely. It's easy to never come home and just stay out. It's easy to go to Ukraine and sign yourself up for a war. How do we get these young SEALs who have life left in them? How do we get them to leave this stuff behind and go live?
That's the question that we are all asking ourselves. Some
Yeah.
people are successful, some people just leave the teams and move on. Some people just have a hard time identifying themselves with anything but SEALs, and they they like to stay within the community. Many, many, but also some of the guys have no other ways to make a living. There's a lot of SEALs coming out, and they do not have as many skills as maybe somebody who is civilian, who grew up in civilian society, went to schools, because like our schools, the SEAL schools, and our training does not translate easily to
No.
civilian uh, thing.
Right.
I'll tell you my example too. Like I didn't know how to write my resume very well. So I remember my wife said, my wife was trying to help me say, so what, what do you do the best? I said, well, the best, I'm SEAL. I blow things up and kill bad people. So well, we cannot put that in resume. I said, yeah, of course. So I said, like, how about, I don't know. I said, like, I have a thing. How about government customer service as a SEAL? That's you can think like that. You say, well, yeah, that sounds promising. So tell me more about it. Well, my customers were always wrong, and I got to kill them. They cannot go. That doesn't go to the resume. You cannot do that. So eventually, we came up with something that was meaningful and actually looked really good on paper. And with my skills, I was able to get a job. But there's, the problem that I see within our community. There are many guys who leave the teams. They save some money with their families, and then they hope, okay, I have that savings, so I have a little bit of time to find the job. So I will look for the job, and while I'm living off the savings, so we are good. Well, 4 or 6 months later, he still cannot find a job, but the money ran out. So what he's doing, well, let me just do one time. I go and do the contract. I bring a lot of money, just enough to have another 6 months time to find a job, and then I will find the job. He comes back from deployment from contract deployment, has the money, looks for the job, cannot find the job, runs out of money. What he's doing, well, let me try it again. And not all, some people enjoy doing this type of work, but there's many that just want to get away. They just want to spend the time with families. How many times I hear from our guys, I'm retiring, I'm not traveling, it's just me and my family. And then he doesn't have a job, and he needs to leave the family on the contract somewhere. So this is the problem that I see constantly. Maybe soon, when that we don't have any wars, open wars like that, there's people who have more time to gain some skills, finish some schools, that they can get a job. But there's many still our warriors who are not in that situation, that they do need to find a job, but they don't have maybe desirable skills, and it is hard for them and their families. And very often the family suffers the most, and very often will fall apart. So we need to support these warriors, especially these with combat experience, because they sacrifice so much, and now they need our help getting a job.
And you focus so hard. You work at such a high tempo and with such intensity. Like I was thinking about, listen to Jocko and you on the show, and you can put yourself in the moment when you're there and you're waiting for, like, you run up to go set a charge to breach a room, and I'm there. Like I'm well, we're working, right? Like it's not my time to go work yet, right? Like I'm going to go talk to people, but it's not my time yet because you've got to go do your job. You can feel the sweat roll down your back, and you're just waiting and you're waiting and you're aware of everything because you're in a combat environment, you're in a mission, and you're just so hyper aware, you're so focused, you're burning all this mental energy, and then you go do the mission and you come back, and then you have to relax. Now I've got to type reports, and the next thing you know, it's 20 hours later, and you're like, damn, we got to go to another mission in like 3.5 hours. It's like, it's relentless. And so then, when you do get to come home, you haven't had fun. You're really kind of crazy, honestly. At least I was. I'm like, I'm just wild, And how do you learn to sit in a classroom or learn how to code or learn how to do anything other than focus on what your absolute mission is? Because if you don't, you're letting your guys down. Like if you don't work on language and shooting, in my case, asking questions, whatever it is, you're so hyper focused. It's really hard to develop another skill unless someone like orders you to do it.
Well, it could be hard, but please also remember that our job, especially in combat, is so intense. And like you say, but we want it. We just can't wait for another mission. So I remember we just like when the mission was canceled for some reason, we were upset. I mean, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
what the hell?
True. Yeah.
So you want to do it, but you're right. It consumes so much of you as a person that everything else is being set aside. And coming back later from war, you still have your mindset. It still works very similar way. Maybe some people see it differently, but this is the way I see it. This is the way I experienced it. So your mind is still working in this hyper gear, and then you just need to learn to relax, and sometimes you just need somebody to help you relax. Go somewhere, do something different, take your mind off the war, but the people, the brothers that you lost, take your mind off even the present situation. Just go and detach yourself from everything. That's what helped me a lot. And yeah, it's just it was a difficult time for everybody, especially people with combat experience,
Yeah.
because we still long
I
for it too sometimes.
I've had to do constant therapy every 2 weeks, and I can go a little longer sometimes, but I'm dangerous if I don't do it. It's not good for me. I've got to maintain it. I don't know that I'll ever get to stop. Because of the intensity and the duration. It's a big bill to pay. I didn't know
Right.
at the time. You know, I was just working, and you that intensity and the pace, it's really damaging, and you just have no idea. You have no idea when you're doing it. And
It-
one guy's going to be good, the other guy not, the other guy dead. You just don't know. You don't know how it's going to work out. You think you're going to be great. Everybody does. You just have no idea.
and we had many suicides within our community, and I believe that this is something that a family is so important.
Yeah.
And me coming back from combat, I didn't have anybody, so I didn't have anybody to fight with. Usually, when you come back, you are still aggressive. At least I was, but I didn't have a family at the time. But
Right.
also, please remember that many these guys who decide to take that exit, that usually the family trouble precedes that very often, and we need to be cognizant, but also of that, but also the first the first people that see problem with us, that like with my case, the TBI, the traumatic brain injuries, are not the friends, not my fellow SEALs. Those are families, maybe neighbors. Because
Hmm.
when I talk to my SEALs, when my wife told me that something is wrong with me, I say, how come it's wrong something with me? Let me go and check it out. So I went to my fellow SEALs, say, hey, do you think something is wrong with me? No, you're just like me. So yeah, but he has the same damage like I have. So yeah, we are the same, but yeah, that was the first alarms are being raised by friends and families, not by our community. When our community gets engaged, usually it is late, or it is usually that the intervention is required rapidly. Uh, so yeah, that's the family, and supporting the families, our families, is very important.
I think about the TBI and what we've learned about it, and we're talking TBI, just BIs, and like all of the explosions that you're around. Like I was walking, I'm nowhere near the demo range. I'm just walking around the camp trying to work on my stuff, and I'm nowhere near a danger. Other than being in a combat zone, I'm nowhere near. And a bomb, boom, we blow up a bunch of stuff, and it blows me sideways. Doesn't make my ear bleed, but
Yeah,
probably just short of that. And I'm like, this ear is going to be done. Like, and it is. It's no. I mean, look, I can hear out of it and everything, but it's not anywhere near good anymore. It never occurred to me until a lot later. I'm like, I bet there's a little bit of a brain injury from that. Like, it was a significant. Like, it blew me sideways, right? And then all the mortars overhead and all these things that happen, all opportunities for some kind of brain injury. You dismiss it at the time, but the reality is you just don't know. And we're still learning, like, oh, actually, all of these things have the potential to hurt you. And every person's different. More exposure is bad. And all of a sudden you're like, well, when did I not get exposed to bombs and explosions and breaches and all these things? Like, it is that cumulative effect, man. It's terrifying when you
yes,
think about it.
and like you say, this is something fairly new. Uh,
Yeah.
There were books written about it, there were manuals, but like really nobody pay attention to it. We didn't, for sure, about
Sure.
like the long-term damages and what can happen. So when I experienced my symptoms when I came back from war, um, I was a SEAL instructor at the time, and I was waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning every night. So I was thinking, like, what is going on? Why do I wake up at 2 o'clock? Like 2 o'clock, I'm awake. So when we talked to fellow SEALs, and we came to conclusion that my apartment has to be haunted. Maybe there's a ghost waking me up. So the TBI even crossed my mind,
Right.
and it should, because there are the other symptoms too. I couldn't read. I could start reading paragraph. By the time I finished paragraph, I didn't remember what it started about, what the paragraph was about. So first I was blamed maybe poor vision, maybe just dark room, dark tent, and but then the memory, the balance, the other symptoms came in, and I still didn't think much about the TBI. I was just thinking, I don't know what it is. Maybe the ghost in my apartment. And eventually, we start reading more about it. We start learning more about it, and become more obvious that a lot of people do suffer uh, those brain injuries, especially being a breacher, having hundreds of those explosions within the few feet distance. Eventually, definitely affect you. So there's a lot of us now having these injuries, but they're just. I feel I do better now. So
Today,
thanks.
today,
Yeah,
this
today.
can be our generation's Agent Orange, where you're like,
Yeah,
oh, when you turn 70, here comes the Parkinson's or whatever it's going to be,
yeah,
right? And
true.
that's,
Yeah,
look,
we
this
will
is
not
really
know
going to
the
be a thing
effects.
for us. Like, it's terrifying to think about it. Nothing we can do, but it's not going to surprise me at all if we pick up stuff again later on, because we've been through a lot. We've put our nation and our actions have put us through a lot. And
Yeah,
you,
yes, you're absolutely right. But you know what? I'm looking back now. I wouldn't change a thing. I have no
same.
regrets.
Like,
It is something that we didn't know at the time, but even if I
yeah,
knew it, I would still do the same thing because that was the
yeah.
right thing to do, and we needed to be there and do what we did. So
It
yeah, I
turns
don't
out
have
you
any
were really
regrets.
good. You were really good
Yeah.
at what you did. I mean, your book is like Rob O'Neill. All these guys are like greatest SEAL ever. Ed Heiner, legend, right? Yeah, you
Oh
were really
yeah,
good at what
this
you
guy
did.
is legendary. Let me just mention something because there's one more thing about America. You know, as much as I was oppressed in communist in socialist state by communists, and as poor as I was, once I landed in America, the planes were even. I was not any poorer than Ed Heiner was. He was even poorer than I was. He was kid, and only in America, kid like him, and he was a big fighter too. I mean, from what I understand, he used to beat people left and right, and kid like this from the mountains somewhere, it become Navy SEAL officer, and the
Yeah,
legend in the teams too. So people like this, this is America. You can be whatever you are able to be if you just want to do that. And
yeah.
so Ed is the best example. And again, when I came to America, when we started, I think we started in the same place where Ed was, where I was. He was maybe a little bit poorer than I was. Maybe he had even less opportunities because I was surrounded by Americans who were already successful, who were helping and guiding me. I didn't have that guidance, maybe his parents, but
Mm.
he was living in some small place where there's resources that were given to me when I landed in America. He did not have it, and look where he is now. So I'm very proud, call him my brother, my SEAL
Yeah,
brother. So yeah.
yeah. And he
Actually,
goes
he needs
on.
to write the book. That's some of the
He
stories I heard
does.
about it. That he needs to write the book, his stories,
Yeah.
and I hope he will one day.
And he goes on to lead and mentor. He goes
Yes.
from, and this is one of the great things that we talked the other day on the show. We talked about this, where it's one of the places where you can go from zero class to really, being a leader. And not everybody gets to, but you can apply yourself, and the military is a place to do that.
Right.
Hey, let's throw a little
Right.
bit of love at Johnny Walker too, by the way, because he also comes from nothing, and here he
Yes.
is in America and has a family, and he's got
Yes.
grandkids now, and these grandkids are never going to know the struggle that he had to go through,
Yes.
and that's a gift from him.
We owe to Johnny Walker, many of us, all our lives. This guy was online with us. Was to the point like we didn't let interpreters to carry weapons on them with
Yeah.
us. John was exception. He was carrying one. We actually allowed him to do so, and we trusted him. There was so much trust in this guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, when you guys left Mosul, and I'm not saying
Can
you
we
guys,
stop the
but
camera for a second?
yeah.
Right.
What do you want to say?
No, can we stop the recording for a second? Or you can cut it out later, can you?
I cannot stop it. But I can turn it off and we can stop altogether.
Oh, yeah, no. Can you edit it later, or this is live?
It's live right now. We're live right
because
now.
I have my eyes, I have injured eyes, and so sometimes I just
you wipe your eyes.
Yeah. I'm not crying.
Good.
Okay, so
I got to tell you a Johnny Walker story. I don't know if you've ever heard this. So the team on our camp left. You guys went off to go to Baghdad or wherever it was, and it just so happens that the chief from that team knew me some crazy way. He went to a source operations school that I taught at, and he's like, "I know you," and I'm like, "You don't know me. I don't know any Navy chiefs." He's like, "No, I know you." And he's like, "You taught at the source ops course at Huachuca." And I'm like, I did. He's like, "You know your stuff. When we leave, you're going to keep Johnny Walker." And I'm like, awesome. And we put Johnny to work one day, but it was dangerous. And we didn't want to get Johnny hurt. So we were like, if it's dangerous, don't come. If we need you, we'll call. And so whenever we needed him, we have him come on. So the first thing I did is I went and got him a raise. And the other thing is he came to the camp one day. He's like, "Pete, these guys killed my cousin. I need money so I can buy a gun." And I'm like, "Hang on, let me get you some money." And so I broke him off $600. I'm like, "How much do you need for a gun? Is that enough?" He's like, "That's enough for a gun." And he went out and he exacted revenge. And I have no problem saying that, because this is not the real world. This is a war, right? And this is a guy that took care of you guys, and I had to take care of him. And look, this is not because I'm a Navy SEAL, but I also understand what it means, because the chief had told me, he's like, "This is an important guy. We're going to use him again. He has been incredible for us." And so, bam, like we all work together on this thing, and it's not the real world. People have to understand that this is a dangerous, dangerous world. And for you guys to trust him, that allowed me to trust him and allow him to take care of business, take care of his family. Because if he wasn't able to do that, then he couldn't work with us. He couldn't help us. And we needed Johnny on our side.
That him and his family were hunted for working with us, for helping us.
Right.
And he disregarded. He never wavered. He never changed. And it's such a great honor to have him here in America now. He wrote the book, named Johnny Walker, and I would recommend everybody reads that. So this great guy. We are brothers now. We are friends, and we seen each other like not too long time ago. So I'm just Johnny is a great guy. He's successful now. He's living his American dream, and
Well, look, let's stop. I've had you for an hour, and I appreciate it. Everybody needs to get the book. Let me put the link up on here, and you guys all know what I always say: buddy read. So buy one for you, buy one for your friend, and get the book. It's called Pledge to America. There's the link. It's in the show notes as well. So just go over there and click on it on the Amazon link. And that's it. That's everything. Anything you want to say to close out the show, Drago? And thank you very much, by the way.
First, I would like to use this opportunity to say thank you to American people for my freedom. Thank you for bringing me here and letting me live as a free man. So I think that's one thing, that the way I would like to end the show. Just say thank you to American people for my freedom.
Okay, stand by. I'll be right back.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you so much for